Okay, I am back. I got better glue. So while I'm taking this little glue break, I gotta open it up here. I do want to let you know that I am not an expert on composition or really anything art. I'm just not an expert. It's just that I do it a lot, and basically I'm trying to share with you the techniques that I use that I have found to be successful and eye appealing and things like that. So that's the first thing, is that I'm not an expert, just sharing with you what I know. And the second thing is, there are so many different ways to compose art, so many different ways. And I'm just showing you one way right now, which is this vertical, horizontal axis type thing. And to me, it's one of the easier ways to make a collage, because there's really not a lot of thought. You just kind of have to make sure your lines match up. And then ultimately, we'll be working on the diagonal somewhat too. But for now, I just want you to know, I'm sharing this with you. So I don't want you to come away saying, well, Kim says, you know, it's very much just my own techniques, my own process and how I do it. And certainly you can do it however you want as well. So back to this. So we left off where this guy, we kind of put that piece on, and I like this piece, but then I didn't like this over here. So I'm going to just cut this part off. So cut that off, because I don't feel like I need that. I'm gonna then move this, I think I'm gonna move this all the way over here, and then I'm gonna put him like right about here. And what that does is it establishes, again, a really good line. Now I feel like I need something here. I think something like this would add some interest, like if you just saw that. I'd also go this way, but I think that looks kind of good. Let me see how this would look here. Because what I'm trying to kind of do is I'm trying to follow this curve, kind of a curve, and I'm also trying to meet somewhat his eye line, because I want this to look like, you know, he's looking in the mirror or something, or maybe it's a reflection or a past something or other. Okay, so I kind of like that. I think I'm gonna do that. So what I want to do now, here's how I do this. This is how I line these things up. So knowing that I want these two pieces to go together, but I want them to line up nicely, I glue this first. So what you can look at here, I don't know, let's see if you can see this. So I'm lining up the circle to the top of his hair right there, so that this, you know, gives the illusion of more of a continuation of the face. I also would like to move this down to eye level, but I think I can't do that, because if I move it too much more, I'm going to lose my continuation of my circle. So we might just have to leave it just like this. Now I do want to straighten it out just a smidge. Okay, so the other reason I like this is because you're getting a nice square here. You're getting some nice right angles. It flows well with that. This circle kind of snakes into this, so you're getting kind of a nice, you know, serpentine type line. All right, so I like that. So I think we're gonna lock that in. Okay, now, so I do it this way so that when I put it down onto the piece, I'm putting it down as one, and I'm not having to fidget around and figure out where that one's gonna go and where the other one's gonna go. Now, I'd like for this to hit here. So I want it to hit at the bottom here, and I want it to hit right here. And as you can see, there's still a little bit over here. So I need to put something right there. So remember how we had this little piece? I'm gonna put this here just to fill in the blanks. Okay, so we're gonna put that right there. This also is gonna add a little bit of a nice texture to it as well. All right, so let's put him back on here. And you can see we got a little bit there. I still don't think it's enough. So here's a little piece of spine that I had left over when I was pulling apart that book. So let's see, if I put this here, let's see, where were we? We were right here, weren't we? Okay, and this here. So I think that might work. Let me do this. Let me see if this pulls apart. Because what I'd like to do is just take this maybe up to here. Because as it sits right now, it's kind of just out there by itself. I could do something like that. Yeah, but I think that's invasive. Okay, I am going to take a little piece of this. Decide what piece I want to take. I think I'll take this. And I cut it so that I can still use, I can use this piece in another collage if necessary. Now I have to figure out which color I like. Do I like the darker brown? Do I like the lighter brown? The nice thing about the lighter brown is that it has built-in visual texture. It's got the like a chain link fence. So I think I'm gonna keep the chain link fence. Okay, so we're gonna pop him back open. And this is the other reason I like using stick glue on these things, because it takes a little bit of time to dry. It gives you just a little bit of time to mess around. All right, so I'm gonna put that right there. Let me make sure this is gonna fit again. Okay, remember what it here. I have to remember where I was gonna have it in here. Actually, let me put it back a little bit. Okay, so now that's strange because now you can't see it, whereas before I had it right there. I think you can. That's kind of strange. All right, I'm gonna move this to just right here like that. For some reason, I lost my position that I had him in. Okay. All right, that's good enough. I'm just gonna I'm gonna eyeball it here, make sure we're straight. Sometimes I have to kind of get on top of it. And if we're not totally straight, that's okay too. Now I'm just gonna leave this part glued because I know that, gosh, everything is so sticky. Just gonna move that down just a bit too. All right, because I might still put something underneath. I might put something behind. So right now it's kind of what I call temporarily tacked in there. Now it's so sticky, I'm gonna get a piece of deli paper and I'm just gonna kind of rub that on, because if I were to do this with just my hand, I would stick all over to it. So I'm gonna peel this off carefully, and the deli paper will help actually pick up some of that too. So I try to keep deli paper handy, or parchment would work too, any of that kind of stuff. Because sometimes I just it gets too sticky. All right, so that's good. All right, I still think I need it over just a smidge here. Okay, do you ever do that? You put something down and you're thinking, oh no, it needed to go more this way or that way. That happens to me all the time. Usually I just ignore it. Okay, so I kind of like this idea too. I just noticed that while I was putting that other piece on, because I do like this kind of a thin piece. I also like this right here because, again, we're adding some texture. So I kind of like the idea of putting this right about here. I think it's going to add a little bit more mystery and more, you know, just more interest, I think. All right, so I've got to get my deli paper out again. All right, so let me move this into position. And I want this underneath. So this is another good reason why I didn't glue that down, because I know that I'm probably still going to use or, you know, do something with it. All right, so let me get my deli paper over here. Stick it down in the deli paper. I don't always use deli paper, but for things like this where I'm using really vintage papers that are very delicate and fragile, I try to handle them myself as little as possible. So that's where the deli paper comes in, because if I were to go in here with my own hand and start rubbing, it's possible I might pick up some of those fibers that are in there and, you know, potentially ruin it. So that's why I'm using the deli paper. I'm just trying to be a little bit more careful with it. Okay, so we know that goes there. We know that this is coming up. Okay, we have our dude. All right, now let's see here. How did I want him to go? Okay, so I did like this, but I feel like it's very heavy down here, particularly now that I have that and I like that. So I'm going to do some holes, circles. Now, I've had so many people ask me, why do you put circles in? And how do you know when to put them in? Well, here is a really good example. I like what's going on here. I like the texture of this. I like how it matches with that. I like everything that's going on here. And so if I put him here, you can't really see what's going on. But if I move them over a little bit and I poke some holes in there, then you can get a little peek of what's happening underneath. So like you can see a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I might need another little hole right there, but let me move him back somewhat too, because I like the idea of the viewer trying to see what's behind there. I'm gonna take this off right here. So I think that might be a little bit too much, because again, I want the viewer to look at this and imagine, what's going on? Okay, so I do like that. And I like that the cutouts are picking up from below. The other thing I like about this, here's a little, mini talk about my circles. One of the things that I love to do when I cut these out is to have each hole be a different texture, color, whatever. So, and this is a perfect example of this. So I've got the brown one here. I have just the, what kind of paper is this? Ledger paper. I have another ledger paper here, but this one's a little bit tinted, and then I have this kind of scratchy paper right there. So I'm kind of firing on all cylinders right there. Okay, so this, I want to glue this down now because I know that I want to use that. Just gonna get that glued down. Here's a little tip about glue. I try to be fairly generous, especially when I'm using glue stick, because it's pretty forgiving as far as adhesives go. You get a little bit of time to move it around. You get to, experience it. I'm going to say in real time. I know that's not exactly what I'm trying to say, but it lets you manipulate it. I feel like it's easier to manipulate it than other mediums. And again, you just have to, I need to do a video on how I decide which adhesives to use, because it all depends on the paper and it depends on my substrate. That is how I determine what medium I'm going to use. But paper is key, because you can't use, well, you can, but it doesn't look good, but you should not use glue stick on anything glossy, and that includes like magazines, or sometimes when these books that you get might have a glossy surface. Okay, I really like that. In fact, I think that is good. I think he might even interfere a bit with it. So because this person is blind, I'm gonna make him blind too. Make a little executive decision there. And I think I like that, because now it's adding even more of a mystery as to what's going on with him. Let me cut this off down here. I do have, like I said, I have to cut off the side so I can make sure to see it clearly. All right, I think this is what I'm gonna do with him, but I'm gonna leave him for a minute and work up here. I'm gonna take him off and work up here. So let's see, I've done browns and some golds. This would look good up here because this would match diagonally this pattern. I could put this paper up here. I could put algebra up there. Then this, even if I put it like this, that would fit as well. I wonder if I did this and then, I like the word algebra, but if I did something like that and that. See, that looks good too. If I did that and that. You know what would be kind of cool would be to do, see how this image is here, to do the opposite image up here. I might do that. Let me cut this out and see what this looks like. Oh, of course, look at that. Look what's on the other side. That's interesting too. Okay, change of plans. I like the back side here. I like that it has these women, and I also like it that it still maintains this curvature, which is almost identical to this one. You can see it's a little bit off, but that's okay. I like the idea of this going here, and where's my dude? Here's my dude. This going here, and let's see. Then I would just need something like right here. I wonder if I could take his hands, do something with his hands. Ooh, that looks good. Okay, now what you've just witnessed is me being very intuitive and open with my collages and what I'm gonna do. Like I said, I started this out, I wasn't exactly sure what I was gonna do, but I limited my papers so that I could concentrate more, and I didn't even know that was on the back side until I flipped that over. Okay, so I think I like this. Let me tuck this under here like that, and let me go with that. Oh, I think I really like that. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Now, one of the things that I'm not liking, can you see how you can see where I cut is kind of like got a whitish edge. It doesn't look that good. I try to fill those in. So I usually get a marker. In this case, I could use black or I could use my brown. I have a really nice brown brush tip, but you kind of want to get something that is similar in color to what it already is. And then I just take it and run it right along the edges. This way you're getting rid of that kind of a white, I think it's the white core of the paper that's coming through. Okay. Sometimes I'll even do, I'll do it on this one. Sometimes I even put it up high like that and then just kind of take my finger and rub it in. And you see how it gave it kind of a natural shadow effect right there. And sometimes, especially if I'm trying to emphasize a particular curve or something, like I am trying to emphasize that, I will go in and actually make it darker to kind of emphasize where I'm going. And I would also make this edge darker. So I think I'm gonna do that with that. And if I want to get really fancy, I go back with a black and I even highlight it even more. So I'm just going to do black right here. This is also, I don't do this for everything. It's just if the collage needs it, if the piece of paper needs it. Since I'm here anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure these are edged as well. I just really don't like, for the most part, I don't like the white edge of the paper to show, for the most part. Now there's sometimes when I do like it, but in this case, since we've covering up that one, I'm going to go ahead and cover up these two. I'm doing this in black mostly because this is sitting at the bottom here, and black is a color that is a heavier weight than, you know, whites and pinks and that kind of thing. And so because I want my tones and colors to be darker down here, that's why I'm going to go ahead and give it the all black treatment. And I think this needs just another little, needs an edge to it. Let me get this piece of paper here. So you see how this is thicker here than it is here. So I'm just going to take my marker and run it like this so that I can get one good line going all the way up. If I want to grunge it up, which sometimes I do, while it's still wet, you can take your finger and smush it around a little bit. Well, okay, marker, this one's not doing it very well, but usually you can take a little bit of it. Oh, there we go. I just need to get a little bit more on there. And you can kind of use your finger and straighten up. This is one of the other reasons I wear gloves, because you never know when you're going to want to get in there and get grungy. Okay, so the other reason I think this looks good because it kind of matches the two of these together. So now he's not such a separate entity. I'm going to do that here too. Okay, all right. So there we go on that one. That's another little tip that I like to do. And, you know, don't be afraid to alter however you feel like you need it. Okay, and this one, I think I'm gonna do brown with. I try to keep a variety of markers handy, you know, different colors. And I always have black and brown available because those are the two that work the best, because typically your paper is kind of a neutral tan brownish, and I use a lot of black in my collages. But I've also, you know, if you're doing something that's red or orange, you know, you can use a red or an orange marker. And I'll tell you what, this one's not going to work for this one, I don't think, but I keep highlighters around, because highlighters, just a little dab will do you. You know, if you need a little spot of yellow, that works out really well. And make sure to get the permanent ones. This one's permanent. So I do like keeping highlighters around too. All right, so I like this here. Let's see how we had this. This guy went here. Actually, I think it went like that. I think his ear hung over, and then that went under there, like that, kind of like a puzzle. Then we had his hand going over here. Okay, so now this is where it gets slightly tricky. I'm gonna glue down the hand first. I'm gonna take these things off, and you see how it's a little bit crooked? That's okay. I'm gonna cut some of that off. Kind of still holding it in place. I'm just gonna kind of lift him up, stick him under there. I'm gonna lift this side up. That's how I know, that's how I can remember where to put things. I could also take like a photo, or I could, you know, do a number of other things to make sure I'm getting it at the correct spot. But this is how I tend to do it. All right, so I also notice he's up a little high, so I'm gonna bring him down just a smidge, bring him over just a smidge. Okay, and now I'm gonna glue him down, because the women go on top. So that was just a nice little find. And so I know everybody does this. I know you do. So I'm preaching to the choir here, but make sure whenever you cut something out, you always flip it over and see what's on the other side, because maybe the other side is better. I do that a lot, but I know everybody does that. That's kind of like Collage 101, right? Where make sure to flip your paper over or your image and look on the other side. Okay, so I want you to notice that. You see how this is kind of floating? That's what the stick glue does. It kind of gives you time to have this float around. So I want this to be, you know, even up down here. Remember we talked about the circles here needing to be different textures, and that's good. Okay, so let me get my jelly paper and rub that in there. It's also, some people I know use a brayer. I do that too. I can't find my brayer half the time, so I just use with what I've got. Okay, now remember we wanted this like little ear to stick up, so I'm gonna take, I don't have my X-Acto knife handy, or actually, you know what I do have handy? It's not an X-Acto knife, but it's kind of close. I have my box cutter knife, so I'm just gonna peel that up slightly. I'm not cutting, just peeling that up because I want that other piece to go under there. All right, so let's fit this in and see where we are. Okay, so that's not gonna work, is it? Let's see if I do this. Okay. You know, actually, I like this better. Why? Because, do you notice something? Look at the face here and look at the face here. They are almost identical. I'm gonna pull this down. And this also frames his face, this little cutout here. All right, so I like that there. I'm gonna put that here. Same thing with the other ones. I'm just gonna tack it down on the one side, and I'm gonna leave the other side open because I might wanna put something back in there. All right, and remember I wanted this here, this here, this here. Okay, so now we're gonna tack that down. I don't think I got it all the way down here. Okay. All right, now the other reason this image is good, not just because it palette-wise, color, tones, whatnot, it all matches, but also you're getting some really good diagonals here. So take a look at her arm right here. This meets this diagonal, which comes down here and hits on that diagonal, which hits on the chin. See, this is a connection right here to the chin, and I guess that's paper he's holding. So all of that lines up really well. So, you know, I talked about having to think about your diagonals as well as your verticals. So, you know, you want to give some movement, some, you know, energy to your piece. And so that's created by making sure your diagonals are working. And also things like these gestures, and this is a picture of them doing something, but as your eye moves around the piece, it's going to, you know, straight, 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 straight. Oh, here's some curves, you know, here's a diagonal. And that's just gonna bring more movement to your piece. And the viewer's gonna actually be more interested in looking at it because you have some interesting lines and shapes and things. Okay, but we're still sticking with the vertical. So you can see here, vertical here. We still have our lines here. Here's a line. Notice how if his eyes were there, she would be matched up right with his eye. These two hands here. So we still have our verticals and our lines, as well as some really nice diagonals. Okay, so the only other little thing that I feel like I need to deal with is this right here. And so this is where I go back through my papers and I look and see what I've got. And this is where I just kind of start trying things out. And nope, don't like that. Let's try this here. Let's see. That's amazing. If I had nothing else, I could use that. I don't really like it though. Oh, look at this. Okay, I just noticed this. This probably came from when I cut this out. Look at this, a little tiny dog. Again, I had no idea this was on here. I bet it came with this or this. I love this little dog. All right, I have no idea where I'm gonna put him or her. but I'm going to cut this out in a mostly rectangle, even if that means I have to cut some of the tail off. Okay, well, it's hardly a rectangle. It's more like a polygon or something. Let me do a little bit more here. That's kind of cool. I did not even realize there was a dog. So now I have to figure out where to put the dog. I might put the dog down here somewhere because I do have some, I have some wiggle room right here. I can put the dog here, put the dog over in the corner. I don't know. We will save the dog, but I definitely want to put him on. I didn't even notice that. This happens to me a lot where I'll be making my collages, and as I'm looking through my papers, finally I'm like, oh, I didn't know I had that. So it's always good to just kind of go back, and even if you think you have a plan, just kind of go with the flow. Know that you might find something really interesting that needs to be put on there. So, and that's okay. All right, I have this too. This actually would also work because you're getting the symmetry. These two pieces are the same. However, they're not lined up. Now, if this piece were to go right here, for example, I would say maybe, or if it were to go here, but because I need it right here, even though my lines work and everything, I don't really like visually how that sits. Okay, so then we have algebra. That's too much. Again, that paper might be good. So now I have this. So let's see what something like this would work. And you just kind of try it out and see. I think that's too dark. Let's try this. It's a little better. This is a little better here. Let me see what that would look like. So I'm going to just cut this out. We're just going to see what this looks like. Okay, you know, that is not too bad. I also like that. I do like this too. Here's another reason I like it is because see how there's foliage over here and this is foliage, so it's kind of bridging the two pieces together. I kind of like that better than I like the college algebra. All right, so here's where I would fold this because I don't want to cut it because I may want it to go all the way across. I'm just gonna, we're gonna try it out. I'm gonna sample it. Now let's see here. So this would be my sample. I kind of cover up college there a little bit. Okay, is that too much? I think yes, but let's do this too. Here's another way to sample this is to open it up and put it like right here. So I could cover up some of those lines coming through. All right, so let me take a look at that. No, I'm not really liking that. Let's try this. Okay, I like that a little better. Let's try that. Nope. Okay, so here's what I like. I like this. But I feel like we're covering up algebra too much. So I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with the others. I'm going to cut some circles over here, circles in here. So this way, you're going to see some of it, and it's not going to be so heavy up here. Although I still think it's kind of heavy. Let me try it this way. See what that looks like. Okay, that looks a little better. Let's try it like that. Okay, I like it, but I'm still indecisive. Let's try some of this blue. Okay, that looks good. That looks really good. Okay, let me do this. Tear that right there. Okay, that looks good. Let me see what it looks like here. No, that's too overpowering. All right, so maybe that with some circles over here on the side. Let's try this. Okay, so I do like it, but it conflicts with this blue here. So I'm going to color this blue darker so that it matches. Now, again, I told you I keep markers and things around. I'm gonna try this, but before I try it, didn't I have a little section here that I cut off of this piece? Let's see, it's around here somewhere. Do you remember I cut off just that little section right there? Because I want to try it on something else before I go full bore. All right, I guess I'll just do this. Okay, so I'm gonna try out this color blue, and of course I have to smear it, and I'm gonna see how it looks with that. Okay, it looks okay. I've got one other blue I'm gonna try. I have this marker right here. Let's see if this is, yeah, see that's a different, that's kind of a, well, let's try this and then try putting this blue on top. Let's see what I get. Okay, that's not bad. All right, I think I'm gonna go with this one, even though it's technically not exactly the color I want, but, and what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna color it totally. I'm just gonna kind of, you notice I'm kind of just tapping it in, because what I'm gonna do, I'm tapping it, tap, tap. I'm gonna take my finger and I'm going to blend it in the rest of the way. Now, every time I go back and add color, I always think of those adult coloring books. And I think about, like, why would people do adult coloring books when they can just color their own collages? Okay, so I like that. And you can even see some of my little dots that are going on there. So, because I don't want to color the whole thing, I just want to get some. And I also like that we're getting some darkers and some lighter tones, which is reflective of what's going on here, because we have the clouds and things. And then I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to color that blue as well. We're going to kind of come down here. Now, while I have the blue in my hand, and I like to be, I like to have a continuous, repetitious, so like if something's up here, it's got to be down here. I'm just going to go in and make some blue random dots over here, because I'm just trying to let the viewer know all of this stuff goes in together. Okay. And I do that a lot with dots. This is one of the other reasons I like circles so much. Okay, so this way, the same blue, we're kind of carrying that blue throughout. And then my final thing I'm going to do, I'm going to color this blue right here. Let's me rub that in. And I'm going to change the color of the, what is this called? The apogee? What's the horizon line? Whatever that's called. I'm just going to change that horizon line so that it's matching more of my other blues. Okay, so now we're going to put that in there. So the question now is, how much of my college algebra do I want to cover up? And how much do I want to save? I'm not really sure. I do want to use this piece, but I think I'm going to have to work with it some more. I think I need to put some more blue up here to kind of change that color up there. See how that looks a little better. I like that. Also, this kind of, now that I've done this kind of looks like ocean, and that kind of looks like sky. Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm going to end this right here, because at this point, I'm most finished, 95% finished. The only thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to still try to figure this piece out, how I want this to work. The end product is going to be very similar, but it might have some little tweaks in it. I'm also going to, I kind of sit and look at it, and I say to myself, okay, does it need a black circle, a black dot? Do I need to fix the composition? Do I not? And one of the ways that I do try to fix the composition is I take my little circles, and this is the other reason I love circles so much, and I use these actually to help with the composition. So for example, you see how this circle, we have a 90-degree angle in that circle. So if, for example, I have an area that is a little bit wonky, I will put a circle on it so that it straightens it out. So in this case, see how my thing was a little bit wonky there. I'm going to put that there so that when the viewer is looking now, they're going to see that the line has been straightened. So that's how I do it, rather than using, you know, a ruler or something. So I could put it like that way too. I actually like it better this way. So I would actually probably lock that in and put that there. So I keep a container full of circles, and I don't have it on me right now, and I've shown it before. It's just whenever, for example, like when I'm done here, I'll clean up and I'll take all of these circles and I'll put them in my circle container, so that when I'm done with the collage, I can go back through my circles and say, okay, what do I need? I need, you know, a right angle, I need a diagonal, I need a particular color. And so that's one of the other reasons I use these circles. It is not just because I like circles, it's because these circles help me to fix things. So like if I would not have had a marker that matches somewhat, I would have put some circles in here to try to have the eye fooled so that it looks more blue or less blue or whatever. All right. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So off camera, I'm going to put in my, I call them composition circles or correction circles. And I'm also going to try to figure this out. And I may even, I said I wasn't going to do paint on this, but I feel like this is really itching for some paint. And maybe right here too. So I'm going to do that off camera, but for the most part, my composition is done. My collage is done. And with the exception of a few things here and there. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that hearing me talk about how I do things, I hope that gives you some incentive to try it in your own, or maybe there's something that I said that sparked a new idea in you. And that's one of the other things I'm hoping from this, is that my, you know, showing you these things sparks in you something, and you can say, well, you know, she used a marker there, but I have, you know, I have paint I can use instead of marker. So there's always something like that. And so that is my hope. So if you would love to talk to me, leave a comment and let me know. Do you like my composition? Do you hate it? Do you think my idea of the circles is wacky, or do you like it? You know, just give me some opinions, and please like and share and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will, of course, be putting more videos like this. You know, if I feel like that the reception has been good, I'll be doing that. Okay, so bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.